Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. Welcome to our weekly live. We're so excited to have you guys here. My name is Bola and I'm the founder and CEO of Clever Girl Finance, and my co host will introduce herself.
Hey everyone, I'm Yazmir. I'm one of the content creators for Clever Girl Finance. I'm joining you from New York City.
Yeah, so you guys, as you're coming on in, please tell us where you're joining us from. And today we're going to be talking about how to make financial freedom a reality in your life. And we have a very special guest, Bo Alexander, who we're going to bring on screen shortly. Um, um, yes, but just a few announcements. So we do this live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we'd love for you to join us live whenever you're available, or you can catch us as a replay. And if you haven't already checked out the new book, Choosing to Prosper, please check it out. You can get this wherever your books are sold. It's as a physical book, an ebook, audiobook, and you can also request your local library to order this book as well. So be sure to pick one up. And if you have one, I'd love to know how you have enjoyed reading this book, and be sure to leave your review on Amazon. So, okay, let's bring Fo on screen so we can talk about this important topic about financial freedom. Hi, Fo.
Hey, ladies, how are you guys doing?
Hold on. Okay, there you go.
Hey guys, I'm Fo from mamaandmoney.com, a personal finance platform for moms. As you can see, I'm a mom myself, so I'm joined by my co-host here, Erin.
Hi, Erin. Someone said, "What a cute baby!" Yes,
Thank you.
here to keep us company today. And for those of you who are new to Federal Finance, Bo is a friend of the family. She's been on the podcast multiple times. She is in the Clever Finance Grow Your Money, the investing book. I interview her for that book where she talks about how she and her husband leverage investing to achieve their own financial freedom. So, really excited to have Fo here to talk about her journey and just to give some words of encouragement and motivation on financial freedom and how it is possible to make it a reality for yourself. And Fo has many, I guess, success stories. If you go back to earlier on the podcast, you talk about how you paid off, I think, $73,000 of
78, yeah,
78
thousand in student loan debt, yeah.
loans. She did that. So yes, she has a lot to share. So we'll get into this conversation.
So yeah, when we talk about financial freedom and financial independence, that's obviously something that's super important for me. Like you said, I had the story of paying off $78,000 in student loan debt, and one of those things that drove that decision to pay that debt off aggressively was the fact that I wanted to be financially free, and have that independence to where I didn't have to worry about having debt that's going to hinder me from my financial goals and the life that I wanted to accomplish. And along with that, after starting that journey of paying off that student loan debt, I remember we paid off the debt completely within like 6 months of being married. And then we bought a house. And only a few months after that, I lost my job. So
Oh,
that really pushed us to press the gas on even paying off our home. So that was never the case again, like where, we have a layoff and we have to worry about paying bills like a mortgage. So financial independence is definitely important to me from the standpoint of eliminating risk and just having the freedom to do what you want to be able to do in life. So it's super important.
hmm. And that makes a lot of sense because a lot of people are like, well, why is there the hurry to pay off a student loan or pay off a mortgage? But like you said, if you can get ahead of that debt and get it out of your life, then when something serious happens, like a job loss or economic instability or just things like that, there's less worry about the bills you have to pay because you have fewer of those larger bills, and what you have left is your electricity and
Right. Small
your
things,
property
right?
tax,
Like,
like bills that you can cover by hustling here and there, right? And not
right,
a massive, because a mortgage, I mean, in the States, you're talking at least six figures,
right,
or multi
right.
figures. Student loans, 5 to 6 figures for many people. Those are huge burdens of debt. So that's a really great perspective to look in terms of looking at like what's the point of pursuing financial freedom. So I know Yasmin has put together a series of questions that she wants to ask you. So we'll get into those.
All right.
Hi, Andrea. Hi, Aaron. I hear you. He's like, yes, I agree with my mama. This
So
is real
cute.
life, people. We are moms here. We have little kids. We try to make it work, so we're making it work.
Yes, so financial freedom, right? It has a lot of meanings for people. And it is especially important for women. And I wanted to ask you, Fo, um, why is financial independence so important?
So
Why
I
is
think,
especially?
yeah, specifically for women, when you think about it, we have a few disadvantages when it comes to finances. So, one, it wasn't until recently that women were able to even open bank accounts without men, right? So, we've had a history of being disadvantaged when it comes to financial means and being able to earn a living for ourselves. So, that's one thing. So, we have some catching up to do. But in addition to that, you think about the statistics of divorce, and then you also think about the statistics of women outliving men. So even if you are married and you're doing your finances jointly, the likelihood of your spouse passing away before you is highly likely. So you need to be able to navigate the financial landscape and be able to independently manage your finances apart from a partner that may pass away before you. And in addition to all of that, we still deal with gender wage gaps as well. So there are so many things that we deal with as women. So it's important for us to be able to, one, know how to manage our money and our finances, but two, also be able to be financially independent from situations like a relationship or even a job. So that's why it should be at the forefront, especially for women, because we've got a lot of catching up when it comes to finances.
Yes, that's I couldn't agree more, right? And then that wage gap also leads to the investment gap where if you're not earning, people say women don't invest enough, women don't invest enough, women don't invest as much as men. And it all ties back to that gender wage gap because if you are not earning enough money, then you also have much less money to invest, even when you want to, right?
Right.
Like you said, women living longer, the potential of, the rate of divorce, which is the reality that we're living in. Um, is something that we all need to take into consideration, especially as women, and prioritizing our financial wellness. Like no one else is out there saying, "Hey, girl, let me do this for you." You have to do it for yourself.
Yeah, no man is out here trying to save us when it comes to money, right? If anything, they're continuing to try to hinder us. So it's our responsibility and on us to make sure we're doing what we can to progress in our finances. And the irony of it all is like with all the disadvantages, you can look at it as opportunities that we have as women. We are like the fastest, especially African American women, like the fastest growing entrepreneurial group. So it's interesting that there's that balance of or that difference of not being paid well in the marketplace as it pertains to the gender wage gap, but then also us aggressively going out there and starting businesses and creating economies for ourselves. So I find that quite interesting as well.
Yeah, that is. I was reading about that stat. So when you look at small business in the US, I think women account for somewhere around 60 something percent of new businesses opened every year. And of that 60 something percent, the majority of the new businesses are being opened by women of color. So really, that's a good sign because these are women from, just really underserved demographics who have a lot of things historically that have held them back when you look at brown and black communities, but then are now trying to make a way from them for themselves and increase their wealth leveraging small business, right? So that's a positive despite everything that's going on, but it's still important that we have that prioritization when it comes to our financial wellness and our financial freedom.
And I think that's a testament to women recognizing the need for the financial independence because of the factors that we talked about, because of the divorce rate, because of the deficit statistics. So I think we're recognizing that, hey, we can't necessarily just rely on a 9 to 5 career. Although we are super educated and we are, climbing the corporate ladder and breaking glass ceilings, we still recognize that that can't be the only way that we build wealth. So we have to find ways to do it outside of a 9 to 5 career. So I think that's I believe that's what's happening. At least in my opinion, when I think about my intentions for, starting my own business, it was because I recognize, one, I don't want to be dependent on someone else for income, but also knowing that it's unlimited wealth growth and potential within starting your own business.
Mm-hmm. And Dahlia said, financial wellness is important, especially when we have kids. Being financially stable is being a good role model for our kids to show them that gender bias is created by society. I agree. Malia says, agree. And then Joan said she recommends our books to her financial literacy students all the time.
Thank you.
So Bo has written a book, which she's going to tell us about before we get into the next question. And she has a YouTube channel called Mama and Money that you guys should check out as well. So tell us about your book.
So I wrote the book Dump Debt and Build Bank, the Everyday Chick's Guide to Money, which was for me something that I felt was missing as I was on my financial journey. So similar, I guess, Bola, to your story, when you were looking for education around investing, like there was a lack of women in the space. So for me, when I was on my journey for paying off debt and really trying to get my finances together, I really distinctly only remember one book written by a woman that I found somewhere at like a bookstore. And I really wasn't like set on the method that she was teaching, but that was the only image I had of a woman in finance. And so for me, it was an opportunity to take what I had learned on my journey and to share it with other women. So that book is Dump Debt and Build Bank, the Everyday Chick's Guide to Money, and it's on Amazon, or you can visit mamaandmoney.com. But yes, and I also do have a YouTube channel where I post now after having this baby. I post once a week.
Yes, so you guys please check out the Dump Debt and Build Bank book on Amazon, and definitely check out Fo's YouTube channel. Okay, so Yazmir, let's keep going with those questions.
Yes, so we talked about the importance of financial independence, but what is it that's holding women back from achieving financial independence or even pursuing it?
Yeah, so a couple of things, and I don't even know if it's necessarily just women when it comes to financial independence. So I have a strong belief that when it comes to financial independence, a part of that is paying off your debt, a part of that is investing, and a part of that is creating your own opportunities to build wealth, like through a business or a side hustle. So I think so many people are stuck in the idea that they have security in a 9-to-5 job. And I shared with you guys earlier that I got laid off a few months after purchasing our home. And so that idea of stability in a corporate career immediately went out the window for me. And I realized that that wasn't the case. So I think sometimes people rely on the stability of a 9-to-5 and don't necessarily pursue other options to have financial independence or financial freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I agree with you. For me, in the pandemic, it really made it apparent, like just the women's issue. Yeah, financial wellness, financial freedom is important for everybody, right? This is something that everyone should aspire to do. Like, stop not being obliged to debt, being able to create your own opportunities, like you said. But one of the things that the pandemic really showcased was just how women were impacted or are impacted more so, right? So think about a single mom that needs to go to work, right? She needs to go to work to go and take care of her kids, but she can't go because she doesn't have childcare, right? So now is the summertime. During school year, yeah, you can put your kids in school. The school will take care of them while you're working and hustling. But during the summer, if a single mom who doesn't have a family support system or a friend support system, what does she do when she cannot take this job, this baby or this kid to work, right? That's a real struggle for many moms. And I heard people talking about, why are these moms on, like, all these different programs? Why are they on government assistance, blah blah blah? Because they need to feed their kids, and because they cannot throw their kids away to go to work. Right? They have nowhere to put their kids. Not that they don't want to work. They do want to work, but they can't. And so just thinking about situations like that, right? So we saw that there were the statistics that showed during the pandemic that when the job losses happened and the government was talking about, jobs are recovering. The jobs are recovering because the men were replacing the jobs that women had lost because these women could not go back to work. So yes, the jobs are recovering, but not for women, right? And then when you think about the PPE loans where women were business owners are locked out. We just talked about statistic of most small businesses being opened by women. So that, PPE loan, I guess, lockout was primarily impacting women as well. So, there's a lot of reasons why financial wellness is important for everybody. But I think for women, you have to, for us, we have to prioritize it. And like folks said, creating our own opportunities, because in a way, it's a little bit more difficult for women, especially when you're a woman that has dependents, whether it's children, whether it's family members, whether it's parents, whatever it might be. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, especially concerning the pandemic. I can't remember the statistic. It was millions of moms that ended up either getting laid off or having to come home to homeschool in that situation. So that's a very great example of why it's so important, because you aren't able to go to work at that time because you have other responsibilities that you have to take care of inside the home. So definitely, to your point, that was a good example of the need for women to be financially independent. And then I also remember a time when I worked in corporate, and I worked in a manufacturing plant. And I remember one mom saying, I don't have any more days to take because I've taken all of my time to take care of my sick child. I don't have any support. And so situations like that where, there's no support from your career, your job, and then you don't have support at home, that's where you definitely need that financial independence, where you don't have to rely on the time off that you have to take in order to take care of your family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And, also sometimes if we talk about mindset, right, it can be tough for someone who's in a difficult situation to think about financial wellness or financial independence. You may have debt. You may not have a job. You may not be getting paid as much as you need to get paid. You're working on a low income. You're trying to figure things out and feed your family. And here are these three women talking to you about financial independence. But what I think is important is adjusting your mindset around it and knowing that it's not something that you achieve in one day or overnight, right? You look at all the stories around financial independence. This is stuff that took people years, some people decades. But how it happened for them was that they set the intention. They were intentional about taking specific actions every day, even though they were small, right? And so for a woman who's watching this, who's like, financial independence is furthest from my mind, you want to start thinking about what kind of intentions can you set so that you can start taking specific, even if they're small actions. And we're going to ask you a question about that also. But even if you can start taking small actions to kind of inch you closer to what you want to accomplish. And I see this whole conversation in the chat. The analyst said, I read only known women in finance because when I decided I needed to learn finance, I Googled financial resources for women. Guess who I found? So you only read books by women. Thank you. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with the books written by men. No, they're great too. But thank you for supporting. And Dahlia said that's why it's important to celebrate the small wins. Okay. Jasper, do you want to ask? Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so the next question for you, Fo, is that you spoke a lot about the importance of financial independence for you. How did you prioritize that for yourself?
So that was like the number one financial goal. So even before I got married, I knew I was like, well, I have to pay off this debt. And at the time, my motivation wasn't necessarily I need to have, freedom and investments and all this. I was just like, I see people going on trips that they obviously can afford that I can't. And so that was the first thing. Like, how can I create such room in my finances so I can be able to enjoy life? So that was kind of the catalyst for me actually deciding to pay off debt. And so then once we got married, that was a continuation. So paying off debt and the obvious need for freedom was the original reason where I started. But repeat your question again so I can make sure I answer it.
Oh yes, how did you prioritize financial?
How did I prioritize it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was my ultimate financial goal, right? Was to have that freedom. So that when when I was single, that was the one thing that I was working towards. And then when we got married, that was the discussion that we had. Like, we want to be free, we want to be able to travel, we want to be able to give. And so that was just the forefront of how we manage our finances. It was just a northern star, or whatever you want to call it, that we worked towards. So that's how we prioritize it. It was the main goal and objective of how we managed our finances, even before and after getting married. So
Mm-hmm. Liz said, girl, people go on trips they can't afford. Pay buy now, vacations now, Delta with their vacations now, pay later. And banks even provide loans or vacations. Sometimes you see it's like a catch-22. So for you, it was seeing other people take those trips was the motivation for you to pursue financial independence. But for somebody else, it could be like, people are taking those trips. I want to take those trips. I don't care if I get into debt or not. So we're not talking about that mindset, right? You want to be able to afford to take the trips, okay? You see people traveling, let it inspire you to build up your travel fund so that you can go. I saw a Instagram reels today, and it was someone on a plane, and it showed them waiting for people to get off the plane, and the person had their phone up, and it said that feeling when you check your bank account after vacation and you see that it's zero. We don't want that.
No.
So I was naive enough to believe that people were paying cash and they weren't using credit. So that's the good thing, right? So then that spurred me to be able to do it with cash and not necessarily have to rely on debt. So just blame that on me being young and naive.
Yes. And then I saw Esther made a good point, and she said, make sure you have something on your own before you get married. I agree with that as well. You want to be able to go into a relationship and be able to stand on your own 2 feet. And even if you don't have a lot going on before you get into that relationship, you still want to be able to leverage your skill set when you can, right? To generate income for yourself, for your household, and also to be the fallback plan, right? So my mom was the fallback plan in my family when my dad went through financial and health difficulties. So there's nothing wrong in having money in your relationship, and in fact, I advocate for that so much as well.
So I have one final question for you, Bo. And I must say that you are an inspiration. Talking about financial independence, the importance for you and women. And I feel like more and more women are going to come out and say, hey, I achieved it, because you were a trailblazer. So I wanted to know, what are some practical steps that women can start today to reach financial independence?
And so before you answer that, if you can give us like practical steps based on the things that you did as you were paying off that $78,000 student debt, as you guys are paying down your mortgage, like, what were some of the things that you did in terms of managing your money, in terms of prioritizing your spending, in terms of budgeting that helped? Because I think that's really important and helpful for someone to be able to walk away from this and say, okay, I know what I can go and do next, right? We've told you to pursue financial independence. Now the question now is how? How have you done it, and what can you share to help other people do it?
Okay, so I would say the first thing was getting intentional and deciding that that's what I wanted. I think you have to have that intention first before you actually start taking steps toward it. So first thing first, having that intention, and very practically what that looked like for me is I set a goal, and I had a mantra that was like debt free by 30. Now I got that well before 30, but that was my goal, like debt free by 30. Everything I did was working towards that goal. So one, have a goal and be intentional about it. And then the second thing I would say is like get clear on what your finances are now. And I know a lot of people are afraid to look at their money situation. They're afraid to look at the bank account. They're afraid to look at how much debt they actually have. But you have to sit down and evaluate where you are if you want to create a plan to get to where you want to be. So that will be the second thing. The third very practical thing I would recommend is just simply getting on a budget. And I know a lot of people cringe at the word budget, but at the end of the day, it's really just a plan for your money. And if you want your money to be able to bring you independence and freedom, you need to have a plan for it. So practically, that would look like how much income do I have coming in? How much expenses do I have going out? Is it negative, or do I have any cash flow available? What does that look like, and what adjustments do I need to make? And then after that, I would say is making sure you have some money saved. We live in uncertain times. Obviously, since 2020, we can definitely say that life is unpredictable. So I would say start setting some money aside for savings, for emergency situations, for cases where there may be, a job loss, but put some money away for savings. And then my approach would be, hey, let's start paying off debt and getting our debt burden down, because that'll free up your cash to be able to do those things that you want to do in life. And more importantly, I think people underestimate the mental freedom that you get from paying off debt. So definitely pay off debt. And then I would also advise to start investing. If you have additional income after paying off debt, start investing so that you can grow your income and start creating that financial independence. So those are the practical steps that I would recommend.
And for someone asked, did you use a certain kind of budget? Like, what was your budgeting strategy method? What method did you leverage that helped you?
So I use a zero-based budget, and that's what I recommend. So I was able to see exactly, how much was coming in, and to the penny, I allocated those funds to go, whether it was to pay off debt, whether it was to go to savings, or whether it was to cover, day-to-day expenses. So I use a zero-based budget.
And if you don't mind defining, for those of us who don't know, or the folks who don't know what that zero-based budget is.
Okay, so basically a zero-based budget is where you literally assign every cent of income that's coming in. So say you have $1,000 coming in, you have to identify where every dollar is going. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to save or spend $1,000. It could mean that you have 500 that goes towards expenses, 250 that goes towards saving, 250 that goes toward investment. But in either scenario, the net difference is going to be zero. So a zero-based budget. So that's the concept.
Mm-hmm. And there are different budgeting methods, right? So that's what worked for Fo. And you can decide to just test out a bunch of different budgeting methods. We talk about them on cleverfinance.com. Just type budgeting methods on the blog, or visit Fo's website or her YouTube channel. She talks about budgeting a lot. And you just try. Maybe it's the 50-30-20. Maybe it's the 80-20. Maybe it's the 30-30-30-10. Maybe it's the reverse budgeting method. Figure out what's going to work for you. There's no right or wrong way to budget. The best budget is the one that works best for you. So there's a couple questions for you. So someone said, did you and your partner plan specific financial goals to prepare for a baby?
That's a good question.
They're getting antsy at this point. So the goals that we had, we saved up for the expenses. That was I think that was the biggest thing, just being able to pay for everything outside of what insurance was paying for. And I guess this is more so for our first daughter, or for our first child. Y'all, I'm sorry.
He wants to see us. Okay?
He's like, he wants to eat, but he doesn't want to eat. For my daughter, he doesn't even want it. I think he just wants to make his gums feel better. For my son, thankfully, we had stuff left over for my daughter, so it wasn't much of a financial, there weren't many financial goals there outside of just paying for the expense of the medical expenses. But for my daughter, it was just making sure she had everything that she needed, and making sure that we weren't relying on the fact that people would be giving. So the big goal was covering the medical expenses, and then after that, being able to cover things like a crib and diapers and all that type of stuff.
Did you guys also plan, or are you planning towards college savings? I know that's it's a decision the parent made.
That's a good question.
Daycare, school, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a good question. So we are saving for college via a 529, and I don't think we started that until a little bit later. And this is the oldest one right here. And so
Mom, your timer is right up. Listen, get off that side.
I'm done watching Mickey. So we do save for college. For the both of them, we put just, I want to say maybe $50, something small right now. And then we did do, my daughter is in daycare, but she's about to be part-time. So that was something that we also had to budget for and consider in our financial plan. But that's a good point to bring up. So like Bola knows this, like I came home from my corporate job, which was a huge drop in our income. But thankfully, like we paid off the house. So it really didn't make a difference as far as paying for expenses. But thinking about, well, what does that look like now with my daughter being in daycare? What changes about that situation? So those are all things that we have to consider as parents, being a mom. Like, what does that look like financially when it involves kids? So we did have to think about daycare and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that answered the roundabout way to get there to answer the question that was asked.
Yeah, you did. So you did plan your finances around having kids. So yeah, Fo, you are a great example and role model of achieving financial independence as a woman, as a Black woman. You weren't born into money. You don't have a trust fund. You're first generation, and you paid off your student loans working. In corporate America, you and your husband have paid off your home. That is an incredible feat, and I think that serves as motivation to everyone who's watching this, right? And she has 2 kids. Listen, and kids are expensive, in case for those of you who have kids, this, right? But she made it work. And one of the themes that I kept hearing folks say was setting the intention, because when you set the intention, when you say this is what I want to do, everything else sort of falls into place. And this is not to sound fluffy, but everything else falls into place in the sense that you get tuned into the actions you want to take because you're focused on that thing. Where your focus is where you're going to focus your efforts, your time, your energy, your brainstorming, your actions, right? So her head was on paying off debt, and everything that she was doing was, how do I pay off this debt? How do I save more money? How do I put more money towards this debt? How do we pay off our mortgage? Like, that's where her head was. So setting intention is so foundational to achieving financial freedom. And well, thank you so much for being here. I know your kids, your kids are home. If mine were here, it'd be a big old party. So we understand, this is Clever Finance. We accommodate mothers, I'm a mom. So yes. So before we let you go, though, please tell everybody where they can find you and learn more about Mama and Money and what you have going on.
So yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram. This is my daughter, but Mama and Money, which is in the my little username. But mamaandmoney.com, Mama and Money on YouTube. So if you are a mom and you want some mom content along with some personal finance content from the perspective of a mom, definitely check out that platform, y'all. My daughter just literally disconnected my camera.
She's like, it's time to go.
It's time to go. That's
this is not how today was supposed to go. I'm sorry.
It is okay. It's okay. We love our babies.
So yeah, please connect with me there and let me know that you found me through Clever Girl Finance and Bola. I would love to connect with you guys.
Oh, thank you, Fo. We'll let you go. We appreciate you so much for being here. Thank you for coming on to share with us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Okay, so it was such a pleasure to have Fo on. You guys know how it goes, right? Kids will change your plans, but she did share a lot of gems, a lot of nuggets, something for us all to think about when it comes to pursuing. Yep, that's what kids do, pursuing financial, independence. And so, if you're going to take one thing away from this live is set the intention, be strategic, create your plans. And Yazmir, you can add what your thoughts were around what she said, and just focus on what you want to achieve. And, so when you think about the fact that Fo had those student loans and they paid off a mortgage, you're talking about multi-6 figures of debt here, right? It took her years to do that, but she set the intention. And now she's at that financial independence where even though she left her corporate job, she's not pressed to go back because they don't have a massive mortgage or massive student loans to worry about. They can pay their day-to-day bills, focus on her business, focus on investing and saving. The pressure is not there, right? So that's just something to really, really think about.
Yes, and I love that she thought big. She knew that she didn't want to depend on on an income. Like she wanted to create something her own, dedicate her time to her children, her business. So that was like very, very inspirational, and I think that that's very important for us, especially women, to not be afraid to think big.
Yes, yes. So, prioritize your financial independence. And as we discussed, start with the small steps. You may not know the answer to getting over the hump of your debt, to getting to your savings goal, but you can start small. What can you do? Open a savings account. Create a debt repayment plan in a spreadsheet. That costs you nothing but your time. Look at your closet. What can you sell to make an extra payment on your debt? There's little things that you can do. Once you set the intention, the ideas and the opportunities will start to come to you. Whereas if you're focused elsewhere and you're like, woe is me, we're all meant to be in debt, you're never going to see those opportunities. You're never going to get those ideas because your head is not just in that space to play the game, right? To pay off your debt, to achieve your financial independence. So yeah, and Fo was our first guest on this live. So excited to have had her on. We hope to have future guests on in the future. But her book is called Dump Debt, Build Bank. Check it out. If you haven't already picked up your copy of Choosing to Prosper, please do. For those of you who have read this book, I want to know what you think. Share in the comments below. You got it on Amazon. Leave a review so other people know that you enjoyed this book. And ask your local library to order this book. And it's available as an ebook, a physical book, a hardcover, and an audiobook. So you can hear me listening. You can hear me reading this book to you if you want. So we'll be back next week. Thank you so much for joining us. And thanks again to Fo for coming on. Even though her kids changed her plans, she still came on to share her knowledge and show us her beautiful baby. So thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting us. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Yes.
Bye,
Okay.
everyone.
Bye.